Today, we're going to unravel a really common but often misdiagnosed reason for knee pain, and it's got a pretty strange name, the goose's foot. Honestly, understanding this thing might just change how you think about some of those mystery aches and pains. Okay, let's get into it.
You know that feeling, right? That nagging pain that just won't go away. So you get it checked out, maybe you even get a fancy scan, and still, nothing. The mystery continues. Well, this is a story about that exact situation and how a super simple, kind of old-school technique solved a problem that all our modern tech completely missed.
So to really get what's going on here, let's start with a case that lays it all out perfectly. Think of it like a classic medical detective story, where all the clues are actually hiding in plain sight.
All right, so our main character here is a recently retired 57-year-old woman, and her problem started with something that sounds like, well, like nothing. Her husband just leaned on her extended knee while she was sitting. That's it. But she felt this sharp pain that then just settled into a constant, dull ache right on the inner side of her knee.
And listen, this was not a minor thing. We're talking 2 whole months. For 8 weeks, she was living with this pain, rating it a 7 out of 10 pretty much any time she moved. She was limping, getting out of shape because of it, and worse, she was getting 0 answers.
So of course, she went to get medical help. But this is where the story takes a really frustrating and honestly an all too common turn. It really puts a spotlight on one of the big challenges in medicine today, the limits of our incredible imaging technology. Her journey was, pretty standard. The injury happens, she goes to her GP. The doctor thought it might be a ligament thing, so he skipped the x-ray and sent her straight for the big gun, an MRI. And the result? She was just told to rest and let it heal on its own. So what did that expensive MRI actually show? Well, it picked up on some minor, age-related arthritis, but absolutely nothing that could explain the intense, sharp pain she was feeling. And this is the whole point. The scan, this amazing piece of medical tech, completely whiffed. It missed the real culprit. And this brings us to the core lesson of this whole story, pulled right from the medical report. The problem wasn't the technology itself, it was this over-reliance on it at the expense of one of the most fundamental skills a doctor has, a simple physical exam.
So, after 8 long weeks of getting absolutely nowhere, the patient ends up in the emergency department. And it's here, finally, that a doctor does something a little different, and the whole case just cracks wide open.
No fancy machines, no expensive scans, just a hands-on examination. The doctor simply started pressing on the area around her knee, and bam, there it was. A super specific spot of what they called marked point tenderness, just below the inner side of her knee joint. This was the clue the MRI had completely ignored. And that one little spot of pain led straight to the diagnosis. See, the problem wasn't actually inside the knee joint at all. It was in a tiny, fluid-filled sac right next to it called the pes and serine bursa, and it was inflamed. The condition is called pes and serine bursitis, or PAB for short.
So why the totally weird name? Well, pes and serinus is just Latin for goose's foot. And it gets that name because the spot where 3 important tendons attach to the shin bone, well, it looks almost exactly like the webbed foot of a goose. That burst that we were talking about is just a tiny little cushion that sits right under those tendons to stop them from rubbing on the bone.
Let's get a little technical for a second, but it's pretty cool. You have 3 muscles, the sartorius, the gracilis, and the semitendinosus, and they all come together and attach at this one single point, forming that goose's foot shape. When those tendons get overworked or irritated, that little bursa underneath gets angry and inflamed, and that causes that very specific, very tender pain.
Okay, so getting a diagnosis is awesome, but what's the fix? Well, the great news is that once you actually know what you're dealing with, this condition is very, very treatable with the right game plan.
And this doesn't just happen after a weird, low-impact injury. To show you the range, let's look at a totally different case, a 28-year-old futsal player who got PAB from overuse in his sport. When you put these two side by side, you can really see how this thing can pop up for different reasons and how varied the treatments can be.
So let's quickly break down why these treatments actually work. You've got ice and pain relief for the immediate firefighting, right? To control the pain and inflammation. But the real magic is in the exercises. They strengthen all the supporting muscles to take the strain off that irritated spot. And then other tools like ultrasound, TENS units, or massage guns can help calm down muscle spasms and give even more pain relief. It's like a multi-pronged attack. And for the 28-year-old athlete, get this. He had one 30-minute physiotherapy session. In just 1 week, his pain score dropped from a 4 out of 10 all the way down to a 0. Gone! I mean, that is a ridiculously fast and effective turnaround.
And what about our first patient, the one who was in pain for 8 weeks? Well, her recovery started the second she got the right diagnosis. With just a simple program of ice and some focused exercises, her symptoms got way better and her limp was reduced within 6 weeks. A fantastic outcome that was only possible because of that one crucial physical exam. So what's the big picture takeaway from these two stories? What can we all learn from this whole Goose's foot mystery?
First off, never ever underestimate a thorough hands-on physical exam. It can literally find things a $1 million scanner will miss. Second, remember that pain on the inside of your knee isn't always arthritis or something inside the joint. It could easily be PAB. Third, targeted physiotherapy really is a game changer for this condition. And finally, and maybe this is the most important one, if something doesn't feel right and you're not getting answers, you have to keep asking questions. You've got to be your own health advocate.
This whole story really leaves us with a powerful question to think about. In our incredible age of high-tech medicine and amazing machines, this is a great reminder that sometimes the most effective tool a doctor has is just their own 2 hands.